when you are married or when you're in a relationship, be careful of who you take advice from. When I just got married, even no, probably not now, but when I just got married, I would get relationship advice from everyone. You will, and then when you zoom in on it, on the people that you get relationship advice from, you'll probably see like people with dysfunctional relationships for years trying to give you marriage advice, people who divorced trying to give you marriage advice, people who were never even married trying to give you marriage advice. But when you get married, you're kind of blind to these things because it's something new for you and you think that you're just supposed to respect any older person's advice. Now, like for instance, my grandmother was in a dysfunctional relationship for years with my grandfather, right? And the one piece of marriage advice she would have given to me is make sure and have a separate bank account from your husband. So she pulled me a loan aside, make sure and have a separate bank account from your husband. And the thing about it is, she's an older person. Now, this is just an example. My grandmother is perfect. She's a lovely lady. But the thing about it is, you just have to be really careful. If I was to go, let's say I didn't have a separate account from my husband, and I was to go and now get that piece of advice in my head and be like moving weird on the lows and trying to open, like it puts a kind of
a slippery slope.
Yeah, it puts a kind of tension in your relationship if you are to really go listen to everybody. Now, that's like advice coming from your grandparents and your parents and like I'm not saying all advice from your grandparents and parents and uncle and aunts are wrong, but the whole thing is not all of it is right. And how to decipher that is that you need to zoom in on them as people and them as in their relationship. So you might have an aunt and an uncle who seem to have a really perfect marriage, but they don't come and give you unwarranted marriage advice. And instead of waiting for them to come and tell you something, maybe you could use things that they do and fashion yourself like that. You don't have to look at because some people who give you marriage advice are louder than the ones that actually have the advice to give. So it's just to be aware of it and don't think because you're in a new relationship or in a new journey that you must take advice from anyone that is given to you. What may seem like good marriage advice may not even be applicable to you. Just like how advice on careers is not applicable.
No, like what is good marriage advice that not applicable?
Anything.
What about, is this stupidest advice? Because I've been to I've been to too much weddings, right? It's just under 1,000. And marriage is not a bed of roses. What about that one? Like, why the fuck you need to tell people that as again married, Dread?
So the expectations wouldn't be as high as that's basically it. The expectations wouldn't be as high, and so that they could is a kind of is a kind of Buddhist perspective or a Stoic perspective.
Yeah, it's Buddhist. It's like life is suffering, so expect suffering.
Right. So you have very low expectations, and so when tragedy or some disappointment or happens, you're not like, oh, my expectations were, was like expecting bad stuff to happen.
I understand, yeah.
So, choose the people that you look up to for advice and
I had this
decipher who.
I forget. I was trying to think about this thing I hear recently, right? I'm trying to forget what is the origin of it. But what this man was saying is that the concept of transcendence is like in Maslow's hierarchy: self-esteem, self-actualization, transcendence. And transcendence is like what? Like when they reach a higher than the regular human condition where you're able to cause and help other people with advice and what you're saying and stuff like that. Like you're able to guide and become like some kind of prophet or guru to people. Well, what this man was saying is that transcendence is like trying to create a are good for people, right? But it don't have to creation don't have to be the only thing people find transcendence in. Some people find transcendence in destruction, and both of them is transcendence now. So sometimes people might just give you advice, probably not consciously to destroy, but unconsciously. A little jab there that they can't really control, but it's just part of the character at the time. Just to like spike a little bit of passive aggressive snide remark, and it makes them feel a little dopamine kick, even though it's not conscious, it's not ill-willed. It's just who they become as a natural part of human beings, is to either create or destroy something good. So it's like, I don't think your grandmother was giving you that advice ill-willed.
No.
She thought that advice.
Yeah, she was from an abusive relationship for years, so she would have learned that and think that that was the one mistake that she made, or maybe that was the one good thing that she did, was to have her own. Yeah, she have her own bank account. So she looked like that as for empowerment. So you have a bunch of people bringing their resentments and their pain and their basically their burdens that they would have carried for years, and then they just kind of like regurgitating it out on you, thinking that you ever meet like a woman who never get married and watch you and say, when you going to get married? Girl, when you going to get married?
I never.
No, well, you wouldn't. But you saw that happen, or when it's like you see people do things, and it's like, oh, but that person not married, and it just mess you up. You're like, what?
So I think that is exactly the point, because and there's like a little jab.
Yeah.
No, like you want to give a 20-year-old girl that. You might give a 23-year-old girl that. She crossed 25. You start to give her that more.
It's just a mess.
37 and I yell that.
But the thing about it is, people people, family members, everybody around you, everybody in the environment have gotten away with saying and doing random things and thinking that nobody. Where are you going?
I'm just fooling her.
And thinking that nobody's self-aware to see through what's going on and what, like, who are you and what you're saying, and like nobody taking responsibility for their words and actions. And so as you now, as a conscious person going through a relationship or a marriage and trying to make your life work, you need to be aware of these things and not think that it's black and white. This person older than you, so you must listen to them.
I thought you want to hit them in a...
No, you want to
just be aware, right?
You want to be respectful of them, but it doesn't mean that you have to take it and change your whole life. And you remember, in a relationship, it's two people you're dealing with the next person. So this next person, you want to make your most important person, not the 5 other people that are trying to give you advice. You want to make you and that person the most important people, and the values that you would get from religion or the values you would get from whatever you all hold the highest in your regards.
Right.
And that will be your navigating force. Not all these people that coming from bitter places and resentment and hatred that you may not even be privy to. You may not be aware of what baggage your aunt carrying over the years from her experiences.
Because to some people changing and tribes changing, and it's not the same. Like all this kind of family and culture and stuff, we are tribal people. But in the past, everybody probably had the same values, and when somebody trying to talk to you, it might be better advice. Because it's one type of person all the time, and everybody kind of happy and good, and everybody living by these tribe values. So when an older person giving you advice, it might be more simple. But when the world change and education level change and different resentment and hatred and bitterness vary according to people, it has to be aware of that.
Yeah. And we could only say this in our video because we've been through this. Like we've been through the people trying to tell you how to have what to do with your child, what to do with your marriage, what to do in your house, what color curtain to put up in your house.
Right, so I never really, to be honest, maybe some people more affected by that, because I usually so disagreeable that I don't really listen to anything anybody say anyhow now. But I remember you going through it for those things.
Yeah, I would like lose it for these things, but over the years I would learn like exactly what I'm saying in this video. And you know, just like, because I didn't have anybody say it. Hey, don't bother. Like, you would probably be that person saying that. Don't bother with that person,
Right.
and don't bother with
It is a video for people with high agreeableness in a relationship with people who unconsciously toxic around them.
Yeah. Thank you.